From Fathead Studios in Speedway, Indiana, this is The Skinny. Was that the year when you had passed some incredible number of cars, I want to say over the last three races, or maybe it's the last three races, but that last race?
The last race, I think, for position, not counting lap cars, but for position, I think we passed 117 cars.
Right, it was a crazy number.
There's only 43 cars that start the race.
Yeah.
But we, we started the race. Kurt Busch's U-joint brakes, like 12 laps into the race, goes through the front of our car. They tell me, they see this, they call me in on the caution, they come in and fix it. We go to the back. We get halfway up through the field the next stint. And I told the guys on the yellow, I'm like, hey, it's pressure's off. I mean, we just got to go out and we'll get everything we can get, guys. We're not done, but we'll get everything we can get. And, it's just bad luck.
This is the first ownership, being an owner, driver.
Yeah. So we get about halfway through the field, and then I catch another buddy of mine, David Ruderman. And at the last second, I get ready to pull to the left and start to the left, and he pulls to the left just to let me go. Well, I'd already started moving, and I clip him in the right rear with the left front, poke a hole in the nose. And I remember him calling me on the radio going, we have to come back in and fix it again. So we come back in, and I'm laughing. And I'm just comical at this point because it's like, we're screwed. We've, aerodynamics are everything in these cars. And not once now, twice we've screwed up the aero on this thing. And I'd said, well, and I'm just joking around. I'm like, man, they're really going to be pissed off when we come from the back and win this thing now. No clue that we could even remotely do that. But we ran the next stint. We got back up to fifth, and that's when the first rain delay happened. And I remember seeing Carl. He had led the entire thing, I think, up to that point. And I remember had just taken my helmet off, hung it up on the deal, was just getting ready to get the window net, and I'm watching him climb out, so I stopped. And he was sitting on the door of his car, and he kind of leans back and sees me 4 cars behind him, and it was like he'd seen a ghost.
Because in his mind, he had eliminated you. Like, he's not in the hunt anymore.
They've told him twice that we've had problems and that, he's leading the race. He's just got to go do what he's doing, and turns around, and he's like, you can see the look on his face is like, wait, how did he get up here? But I remember the best part of that during the rain delay was Jack Roush and Jeff Clark, who worked for Roush Yates Engines, and got out, and the restroom was clear down at the end of pit road where their pit stall was for getting the pole. And Jack had his back to me, and Jeff Clark was looking at me, and Jeff smiles and nods, just being polite. And I tapped Jack on the shoulder, and I said, hey. He turns around, and I said, you better tell your boy to get on his horse because I'm coming. And Jeff Clark's just back there trying to not laugh out loud, and because Jeff knows what's coming on this deal, and he's just shaking his head like, oh, I can't believe he just did that to him, So, but that was a hell of a night, but yeah, that's.
I will tell you one thing that I remember about that race was watching the car on the ragged edge the whole time, coming back through there and watching the car and looking at it and thinking, this son of a bitch is going to rotate all the way here in just a minute.
The worst part about it, I'm pulling slide jobs every lap, and nobody's up there going, slide job, slide job, slide job. It's like, damn it, I did it long before Dale Jr. thought it was popular.
He was pulling slide jobs, but I'm telling you, man, it was just like the car just looked like
I was
so much for
doing a
teaching
Corey
Cruzman how to save the tire. Yeah.
That was one of those do as I say, not as I do comments at that point. But that was fun. Those are you just talked about the 2 greatest moments of my life in racing was the single race and championship at Homestead and the Triple Crown. I mean, those by far, when people say, what's the one thing that you say are your shining, crowning achievements, those 2 things are what come to the top of the list for sure.
Is this where he flips the car? Oh, yeah.
Oh, my.
Right there, I would have passed down.
I was wide open.
I would have passed down about the 3rd time it went around, by the way.
Did you have the steering wheel on?
That's what I thought. I thought you took the steering wheel off.
My head was glued to the sideboard, or to the headrest. And it was all the way back.
This is the best part.
I was dizzy right here. I'm dizzy.
I mean, did you plan right at this point to jump on Brian?
Yeah, we were
He was looking at Keith, but he ended up jumping on Brian.
Yeah. And
so how many
that's
donuts
how it
did you
turned
do?
out. Oh, I don't know. There, I lost. You lose track about halfway through.
See, that's what we got Big Carl here for. Carl's supposed to have this information.
He was counting them. Hey, roll that back.
honestly, I've never done donuts ever since that race right there. I've never done it.
You did enough for a career. I mean,
I don't think you can beat that. I don't think you can.
No,
beat
yeah,
that.
I agree. I mean, it's one and done. I mean, perfect.
Yeah, the only thing, I'm not sure the Russian judge scored him properly. He didn't think the Russian judge thought he didn't stick the landing like he should have or something. That thing was on all four corners one at a time at different points during that landing before. He just didn't stick the landing like he should. But, I mean, it was pretty impressive.
You know, was it United that said fly the friendly skies? They weren't friendly in the 60s because you had Hurtubise, Parnelli, Foyt, McCluskey, Uncle Bobby, Ruby. Now, I don't know that I think McCluskey might have been the only one of the 6 that actually passed his written test. The rest of them either didn't take it or didn't pass it.
Was it a written test for flying?
Yes.
Okay.
For flying. Sorry. A written test for flying. So one day, I'm at the Star, and Hurtubise calls me up, and he says, "What are you doing?" I said, "Not much, Turkey. You want to go to Cleveland with me and get some parts?" I said, "Yes." So I go out, and he had a CB. He had an old CB plane, amphibious. And Prince, his dog, is sitting as the co-pilot, and we push it. We have to push it out of this little hangar, and Herc fires it up, and there's a little blue smoke coming out of the engine. You're thinking, well, it's okay. If I die, it doesn't matter. It's Jim Hurtubise. I won't be part of the headline, but I'll die with my hero. It's okay. So we take off. His radio doesn't work, and we're flying along, and about 5,000 feet, and he pulls it down to about 2,500. What's that sign say? I said, Newcastle. Okay. So we flew to Cleveland on the interstate. I mean, you hear all these horror stories that, my buddy Tony Bentonhausen got killed in a plane crash, and Alan Kowicki, and Graham Hill, and all the racing people that have lost their lives. And Tony Bentonhausen was as meticulous a pilot as I've ever, he wasn't a daredevil. And yet here in the 60s were these crazy guys that no roll cage, no fuel cell, not much of a helmet. They were pretty brave to start with. So flying an airplane, it was like, what's the big deal? I mean, you pull up and the thing goes up and you come, self-taught pilots.
Yeah.
As Uncle Bobby says, I'm a self-taught engineer, honey. Well, that could be, but.
He told me, he said, I won Pikes Peak that year, and he said, I paid all my bills, and I had $3,000 left over. He goes, and I went and bought an airplane. I said, oh, wow, cool. So you became a pilot. He goes, oh, no, I never went and got my license. I just started flying. I was like, holy shit, what do you mean you just started flying? He goes, oh, yeah. He goes, in this plane, he goes, you'd have to put oil in it and get in the plane and take off quick because the oil would start draining out of it because it'd start flowing backwards until you got it up level and it wouldn't go out of it. I'm like, well, that sounds pretty dangerous. He goes, oh no. He said, I was racing out at Ascot for Ag, Agajanian. He goes, I was racing out there for him. He goes, it's either a 17-hour drive from Albuquerque or it was a 7-hour flight with one stop. He goes, so I was doing great. I got $300 to show up there. It was like $300 to risk your life.
Yep. He landed once, Rico. In Albuquerque, and it was like a 90-mile-an-hour crosswind or something like that. Ronnie Doss, who was at lunch today, and it was Howard Milliken's son, and was helped Buddy Lazare win the Indy 500 in '96. Ronnie's a smart guy, and I think he might have been with him on this trip when he was like 14 or 15. But Uncle Bobby kind of misjudged the interstate and the electric guy wires and the hangar, and Mad World where the guy goes under the hangar. Yeah. I think Unser did that. Bounced once and then came back out of the. The fact that Unser is still alive, and any of those guys are. Parnelli said one day. He said racing was pretty dangerous back then. He says, but so was daily life with the Unsers. I mean, just trying to.
I heard they drove the street cars like a race car. Anytime you got in a car with them, it was wide open.
You couldn't. In the mid-'60s, Hertz and Avis were the only two rent-a-car companies in the United States. In North America, neither one of the Unsers were allowed to rent a car because they destroyed so many cars. We go to Mossport once. Mossport's got this blind right-hander. So Bobby Unser talks Jerry Grant into renting a car for him in Jerry Grant's name. God rest his soul. Jerry Grant was a wonderful guy, and they were teammates.
One and done. You learn your lesson
there,
right?
They go to the racetrack. And Unser takes the keys to Jerry Grant's cars and throws them 100 yards away and jumps in his car and takes off. So Jerry Grant wants to, he jumps in the car and takes off after Bobby and Al Unser. They go around the right-hander, stop the car in the middle of the track sideways, and they both run over to the side. Jerry Grant comes over, the blind right-hander, pile drives, should have killed him. They didn't think about that. Broke the car in half, steam pouring out of the radiators, and they're laying on the ground laughing, and Grant's like, what? I can't. So not only is that bad enough, then they decide one of the cars was still salvageable, so they get another rent-a-car, and they told Jerry, listen, we'll pay for it. Don't worry about that. But let's take this down. We'll tell them the other one was stolen, but we can get this one back. The wheels are still moving. We get the front end bowed in. So Mossport's up on a mountain, and so Grant gets in the car, and the Unsers are pushing him down this hill, and they're going 30, 40, 50, and he finally leaves the road, goes down an embankment, and thankfully there's a bunch of trees that stopped him.
Yeah, thankfully.
They almost killed him twice in an hour, and Grant said, I had nobody to blame but myself. And I'm like, no, how could you be that stupid? You can't let the Unser, because he said he looked back in the rearview mirror and they're laughing as they're going faster and faster, and he's trying to keep this thing on the road.
Can you hang on for just a second? This is really important. Just for 1 second. Yeah, Roger, I'm talking with Davey and Kyle right now. Listen, I'll get you back a little later. Go ahead with the plans in the first turn anyway. Okay. I'll talk with you later. Bye. Okay.
Is that Penske calling in?
Yeah, Roger called. That was him on the phone right now. Well, we got a deal going. I probably shouldn't say anything yet, but what he wants me to do is he wants to bring a weekly show there with the Bombers and the figure eight down in the first turn. And also, he's pretty big on doing the monster trucks and the swamp buggies in the infield. But I keep telling him I'll get to it when I can get to it. So I don't know. He actually said that with the monster trucks, he might want to try to run one himself.
So he was a pit reporter for us at IMS Radio now for several years. And he goes up to Roger after Roger gets his 16th or 17th pole. Kevin to tell the story better. But he asked him, he goes, Roger, I know this is your 17th pole for the Indy 500. You won 17 races. But tell us honestly, will your career ever really be complete without a swamp buggy championship?
Whenever I show up, it's just pure chaos. It seems like I don't quite get it. But.
The great thing, I'm so fortunate to have AJ Foyt stories, right? I mean, growing up, him being my hero. There's a lot of them I just can't tell, just because I would get in trouble. And yeah, but one of them was as I was living in Vegas when I was driving for him, and he calls me up and he goes, "Hey, what are you doing?" I go, "I'm just hanging out." He goes, "Can you come to Texas?" I go, "Yeah." "When?" He goes, "I think probably right now." I go, "Oh, okay." So I get a plane ticket. I go to Texas. The whole way you're going, is this it? Are we is this
Are you
good?
fired?
Yeah. Am I getting out? What's going on? And we did just run second in the championship for him, and we were kind of on a little bit of a roll. And I got second to Stewart, but he cheated. So I don't know if that's a true second or what, but I know he cheated. For sure.
Well, we'll get Tony in here, and we'll hear his side of the story. That should be a great show.
Yeah.
Future skinny show coming to you. Tony Stewart and Davey Hamilton sort out.
It's going to go like this. Hey, Davey, or Tony, Davey's talking about you on the show the other day.
Boom. He'll be right here.
Yeah. So I get to the airport, and usually he has somebody pick you up, but AJ picked me up himself. I go, I don't know if this is good or not either. So I get in the car, and the first thing he goes, "You weld, right?" I go, "Like weld? Like metal?" "Yeah." I go, "Yeah, I can weld." He goes, "Good." He says, "Got some work to do on my bulldozer." I go, "Oh, I didn't dress for bulldozer work." And I thought, okay. So we got to his ranch, and he has this inch-thick steel plate, 4x8 big thing, sitting on 2 drums. And he goes, I'll cut this out, and then you can weld it on the blade of my bulldozer. I go, okay. All right. And I go, these drums, are they, you need to move them out a little bit? And he goes, yeah, let's move them out just a little bit so it's just on the edge of them. I go to move one, it's full of methanol. Both of them are full of methanol. And I go, AJ, these are full of methanol. He goes, they'll be all right, no big deal. So I see he fires this torch up with a flame blowing 2 feet long, and he's cutting this inch-thick steel. And I turn, because I'm getting away. So I'm walking, I turn around, and he's doing this with no no goggles,
nothing.
nothing on.
Old school.
And I go, oh, AJ, I go, do you have some goggles? I couldn't find them. So I had some brand new fatheads, right? I give them to him, could wear them. He puts the sunglasses on, and I turn around to get out of there again, and the thing runs out of oxygen. When they run out of oxygen, it makes this pop. So I hear this pop, big bang. I turn around, and the glasses are smoking, right? I mean, there's like all the metal and stuff. And he goes, whoa, good thing you gave me those, right? Like, yeah.
So how far did you go up into go-karts, and then where?
So I skipped out of go-karts kind of at 13. Just got into junior category and ran that for maybe a year and a half, and then started in Formula V's. So I think at that point I was the youngest. I think it was a Guinness World Record at the time, was when I was racing open wheel at the age of 13. It's probably been beat now, just with the age of some of these young kids. But there was a lot of controversy in the fact that we kind of got through a loophole in the licensing, because most countries you have to have a road bearing license before you can go for a racing license. But there was like a small, one-liner that, if you could get a special dispensation by going and somebody watching you on track, and that's what I did. Which that was a funny story. I kind of went to Pukekohe, which is one of our bigger tracks in New Zealand, and I had to go around. It was in a Suzuki Swift. I don't know if you know. It's like a little 1200 road car, white thing. And I had to go around with a driver for Regan Morgan was the guy, and did a few laps, and then we came around the fastest corner. I don't know if you've been there. It's like flat out. In that car, it was probably only 100 miles an hour because it was so slow. But there was a family of ducks that were walking across the track, and I swerved to miss them. Spun the car, went in, ended up in the grass, and just stopped before the bank. And all I remember was that the driver sitting Regan sitting in the passenger seat saying, "Just hit the ducks next time, please." Please do not swerve to avoid the ducks.
By the way, no ducks were harmed in this show, and apparently at that racetrack. So
yeah. So that was the end of my practice day there. But
so let's go along in that same time frame, because you were 13 years old. Let's hear about the Nissan story, because apparently you had a pad strapped to your back so you could reach the pedals.
Yeah. So it was kind of within like 2 months, I had my first Formula V race and ran really well. I think I came like third or something in my first race, or fifth, and then was passing another one in the second race of that weekend. We actually crashed in that same corner. I missed the ducks and broke the car pretty bad. But then, I think 3 or 4 races into my Formula V season, Dad thought it would be a good idea to do some endurance racing. And it was called the Nissan Sentra Cup, I think, at that time, which were all one-make cars. There was probably 35 or 40 of these things, and it was classic racing. It was like the old British touring cars,
like the Mazda MX-5 Cup.
Exactly, which is the best racing on any weekend, man, that we have. We sit in our truck watching that race the whole time, and it's so cool. But yeah, so coming around, I got past that corner this time where I missed the ducks, and it was like lap 3. So we shared the car, and I was 13. The regular guy was like 40 years old or whatever, and he thought it would be a good idea, since we were renting the car, that I start the race too, which we should have seen a mile off. And I got spun exiting onto the back straight and just barrel rolled this thing and destroyed it.
Wow.
But the worst part was, for the driver change to make it fast was, because I was shorter at the time, I had this big pink floral cushion.
You were 13. You were shorter.
It wasn't just a cushion, man. It was this big pink floral thing taped to my backside.
Oh, so it was pink.
Pink.
Okay.
And I get out and I'm just bawling my eyes out, man. And it made like the front page of our biggest newspaper in New Zealand. And yeah, it was.
And that was it. No more 13-year-olds could race. Way to go.
Not a good look, man.
There is video.
Yeah, I think but the video, the one I've seen is pretty grainy. You can't actually see me crying, which is good.
These guys over here, Carl and Aaron, they'll find it. If there's video, those guys will find it.
Thank God there wasn't HD technology then.
Exactly.
They just saw the flowers on it and everything. So
so it was a pretty interesting start to my racing career, with lots of ups and downs. But the year worked out fantastic. I won the championship in Formula V first year and it was cool.
That massive wreck that you had just a couple of years ago, and I was actually standing beside Robbie when that happened. Boy, that place has really delivered some crazy stuff to you along your way.
Yeah, it's that's Indianapolis. I think that's what it is summed up. Is the highs and lows. Are just can be pretty brutal, that place. But I think that's what is so fun about it, is the challenges. And one day, even in testing, it can be feeling easy, and then the next day it can just bite you in the ass. And I think it requires 100% respect every day, every minute of the day testing at that place. The fine changes because you're running, so far on the limit that, the ambient conditions or a shift in the wind, it can take it away from you quickly. So that's what I love about Indy. It's just that challenge. It's trying to figure it out. And some years, you just know when you roll off in the first couple of days of testing that it's going to be a much easier year than some of the others. I think in recent years, the manufacturers play pretty heavily in the shift of power that's delivered on certain days. And then, once you get to Fast Friday or qualifying, you really understand where you've been sitting. And unfortunately for us, the last few years, we just haven't really been in the race. It's I think we got involved in one of the crashes last year, kind of running in the top 8, but the previous year we finished 3rd, but it was more strategy that kind of got us there. Gone are the days where we had a really good string of runner-up positions. The occasional win that I had at least in 08, and Dario had a string of them. Through that period. So. It's been a huge focus for our team, especially in the off season of trying to understand where we've been getting it wrong and trying to reassess, some situations. But, hopefully Honda have stepped it up as well. I know that's been their sole focus in the off season has just been Indianapolis, and hopefully that plays true.
We just really want to talk to the person. The racing thing is kind of a side note to us, which we think it's cool. We love it. We're into it. But, it's more about, knowing who the guy is in there, and that, the hardships and the fights that it took to get to where you are today, which is pretty awesome.
For sure. And I think IndyCars, they are focusing on that. Like, their campaign for this year is a different breed, right? So that's kind of cool. Like, what we're doing is definitely more dangerous than NASCAR or Formula One or whatever. So, like, they're kind of focusing on the fact that, like, we might have a few screws loose, or we might be a little crazy, but that's why we love it. So I think there's a lot of positive stuff going on, and they want to show who we are and how we got to where we are, and how we got the ability to, shut off the danger part of our brain and just go out there and do our thing.
The off season has been very long, a lot longer than I'm used to. Previously, before IndyCar, it was always like racing up until end of November pretty much, and then you had like a month or two with off season, and then you're at it again. And now this year feels like it's been forever since we were in Laguna for the last race. So it's it makes at least me super eager to get started now, and I've used this time to really prepare myself and make sure that I'm ready for the season.
It's been weird. It's almost a mixed feeling of feeling like a rookie again and feeling more prepared than ever, because it's every season is the biggest season of your career, right? And we always try to train harder and prepare harder, and look at onboards and watch the races and all that stuff. But it's if you're not in the car, it's pretty hard to practice. So it's been a kind of weird off season. It can't feel too much like work, because that's not why we started. When you were young, you want to be a racing driver, you want to have fun, and you want to be fast, and you don't want every day to feel like you're in an office, doing checklists and
I get that.
Speaking
I get
engineer
that part.
language. So I think we have a good mix there. It's a good balance for sure.
As rookies on the team, did they pull any pranks on you?
They did a T-shirt with a Swedish chef. He inspired the team to make a T-shirt with a Swedish chef. And it's a bit old now, but he likes to go on about it every time I see him. He's like, "Oh, Swedish chef."
Yeah, they were trying to get us to do it. I'm like, I'm out. I'm not doing that.
Yeah. I told them we were going to start the show off with it. So you guys will feel comfortable.
What our fans fail to get, what really motorsports fans fail to remember is Cup guys, they go around, you get the checkered flag. You've got 2 or 3 minutes to go around, do your burnout. By that time, you've kind of thought about what you want to say in your interview. You've relaxed a little bit. IndyCar, same thing, right? You win a race, you go around the pace lap, and you got time before you go to winner's circle. We make a run, 3.8 second run at 330 miles per hour. Who knows what's going on in the cockpit, especially a funny car. You're trying to manhandle this thing to the finish line, hoping you can get it between the cone and the wall of the finish line. Pull the chute, and within another 30 seconds, you're around the corner and you're getting out of this thing. And they've got Fox television cameras on you the minute you get out. So we don't have a lot of time. You talk about these, fisticuffs and things in the past where I've gotten out. You don't have time to sometimes sit back and think, well, maybe I should think about this and go look at the replay. Maybe he didn't hold me up. And there's so many times I've gone and apologized to people later because I get out and I'm emotional when I'm going down the track and somebody held me up. I'm telling you, and Jay, I'll probably say the same thing. You're at half track and you're thinking, I can't wait to get out and knock this guy out. Like you're so upset and that's all you're thinking about. But not just that happening. I mean, we literally come around the corner, you pop out of the roof hatch and there are the cameras and somebody asking you your thoughts to what just happened where you've gone 6 Gs and then negative 9 Gs when the chutes come out. So all that emotions, you're tied into this thing, you're strapped in, this adrenaline's ready to pop out of the top of your head, and you don't have time to compose yourself. So I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often. I think not enough credit's given to us in drag racing to where we don't get out and just start throwing blows sometimes, or throwing up, or, you know, or going after somebody, or not saying the right thing. So it's tough. It's not as easy as it looks.
Ron, you've ran the Chili Bowl, right?
Yeah. And speaking of fighting, I'll never forget the first year I ran it as a regular midget. It was on a team. Listen to the guys on this team. It was Dan Lasowski. It was Tony Stewart's team, but it was Dan Lasowski, myself, Kenny Schrader, and Josh Weiss. And all the cars, if you remember, they're all orange and painted the same. And, you know, that was cool to walk in that building and see my name on a midget with Kenny Schrader, and Josh Weiss at the time was this new kid coming out of California. And of course, Dan Lasowski. I'll never forget the crew guys that he had working on my car. They nicknamed me Cooter, and they put it on the car instead of my name. They said, you get out there and don't let anybody mess with you. And if they do, you pull in the pits and leave your helmet on, and we'll take care of it. And so I've always remembered that.
Oh, where'd that guy come from? I promise I didn't bring this with me, Ron. I am not that guy.
We had to give him one. I mean, Ron's got 64 of them sitting behind him.
Yeah, but I don't have that one, that Indy one.
I don't know. A lot of the legends say like their career is not complete unless you've got one or the other, and maybe both. You know, so I'm very fortunate and lucky to have the one Indy twice and a championship. But you know, you always want more. A few of us, like I said, are living proof that kids out there racing today that you can take the path that we did if this is what you want to do, but it's going to take some work and you got to stick with it for sure.
You go down a track so many times without nothing ever going wrong, where your mind's focused on being a gladiator, like gladiator mode. You're focused on hitting a tree, keeping it in a groove, doing your job, doing everything right. And then it's one of those deals where you get shell shocked. You get what I mean? Because it literally took me a few races after that incident in 2013 when my car blew up like Corey's did. Like mine blew up. If anybody's ever been in a car accident, right? That is trauma to your mind. It happens very, very fast, but when you're going through it, it takes a long time. Like you go like this, like it hits you and you go, oh, and you're like, oh, and like, oh Lord, there's a car hitting me from the side too. Oh, my head's about to hit the window. Right. Oh, the airbag's coming out. Oh Lord Jesus, I see some white dust. Am I in heaven? Oh no, it smells like chemical. That's just the dust from the airbags. You know what I mean? It's like stuff like that you see, and you know what I mean. And you're like, all right. I'm like, I'm here. My knee stung up a little bit. I'm here. The dust is settled. Well, when you step on the gas of a fuel car, it takes you through that controlled trauma every time. And it feels like a car accident because it hits you so hard. You go, it just took off. Like, ooh, there's a 60-foot clock clone. Oh, it's getting through the jiggle. Oh, Lord, It's coming up on the tire. Oh, darn bump. They can't fix this track. Oh,
yeah, exactly. You're like, what the hell, man?
And then you get to half track and you get the trans. It's like, ooh, it's hooked up. Like, oh. God, dog, it's starting to spin the tire. They got to put this fresh paved asphalt down. They couldn't let it season in. You know what I mean? When you talk about politics and stuff, that's the hardest deal because that's what divides all of our people is politics.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
What we need to start doing is thinking about the people.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
us coming together. You know what I mean? Like think about this, like the Brainerd deal. We're talking about Brainerd.
Right.
All those people get out in that zoo.
Nobody knows who is or what is.
Don't even care. All they care about is the time that they're sharing with each other and how they're going to get through that 7 days and have an enjoyable time.
If they got enough beer.
Put him on the ballot.
All right.
He's got my vote.
You got my vote.
But you know, but I'm just.
You're in.
I'm just. I'm just saying, and that's why I look at each and every day, and that's one thing about our sport in NHRA drag racing that brings all the people together, because we don't have stuff that divide people.
Right.
Every ticket's a pit pass.
Right.
Everybody gets to come up and see JR, come John Force, whoever, myself, and get to come up, and we get to relate. That's how it gave us our hopes of a dream to be a reality, because we are able to put ourselves in that position, because everybody's normal people.
Yeah.
We don't need to be separated from other people.
So down there, everybody has horns on their cars and trucks on there. Like, basically, it's like courtesy. You get a couple beeps, get the hell out of the way. If not, like, then they're going to start hitting you.
It's a nerf, right?
Right.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
some of the trails down there, like, there's not room to get over. Like, I'm like, Morgan, get the hell out of the way. Oh, I can't. All of a sudden, bam, bam, bam. Finally finds a place to pull over. Robbie Gordon. Oh, I'm like, well,
Yes.
that was cool. I thought, like,
Just got nerfed by Robbie Gordon.
It's got punted.
JR's like, that's cool. Morgan's like this.
you're right.
Like, oh, man.
We had him, man. We shouldn't have let him go.
Yeah, like I never saw him broke. Now when did we pass him? Because the trophy truck started running us, right? But he was gone. Like, I thought that was cool. Like, we just got punted by Robbie Gordon.
So how'd you run at Volusia this year?
You know what? I'm going to let you off the hook here. Let's let the fans know that you were on the podium 3 of the first 4 races. So okay, now you can talk about Volusia.
Yeah, I just want that damn gator.
Man, 1 lap.
That's it. But that's what gets you the drive to keep coming back for
One
more and more.
1 lap from the gator.
Yeah. Well, that's why hopefully next year.
Next question. Who is the second winningest NHRA Pro Stock driver?
Come on.
JR.
Who is Jag Coughlin Jr.? Come on.
Antron.
The second most winningest pro stock car driver would be
Oh, he don't know.
Warren Johnson. Bob Glinton. It's Bob Glinton.
No.
Ken.
Jason Line.
No.
So Warren Johnson was the winningest, and Bob Glidden is the second winningest.
is Bob Glinton. Is Bob Glinton.
Yeah.
Huh.
I would relish those days, and I see it now with my son. Dad, can I go to work with you? I'm like, oh, not today. Maybe on Saturday. And I was that kid. I was, I'd go to work with my dad on Saturday mornings. We stop at McDonald's, he'd grab me food, and we'd go in the shop. And I'd go. There was points in the shop that I didn't feel comfortable going past a certain door.
The safe zones.
Yeah. I feel comfortable hanging out by the race bikes and by the mills and things like that. But back in the pipe production, that was like the no man's land. Like, I'm not going back there. You see guys wearing masks and goggles and full
polishing
gowns. It's
suits.
like-
The aliens.
Yeah,
The aliens.
Yeah, I swear I have alien nightmares all because of that.
There's all this stuff that me and him that I could say did together on these motorcycles that taught us how to be where we are today. And I don't think it would be possible if you were down each other's necks or, hated each other. It's like you have to have an understanding of what each person is. And we're both completely different, as in like the
As you can tell, he talks a lot more than
the human being, I would say. We're both completely different. He's reserved, back, calm. I'm the loudmouth that never shuts up and keeps going. But we kind of neutral out each other and work really good together.
I'm trying to keep the fun rival going because it's good for the sport, it's good for the fans, and there legitimately is a little bit of a brotherly, sisterly rivalry going on between Eddie and myself. But I've gotten so close to them that it's hard to even pretend that I don't like him anymore. So there you go. I really miss Eddie. I like Eddie, but I still want to beat him on the racetrack.
People may not see us working that much at the racetrack because we've done so much preparation to get to each and every event. You see some other teams out there and there's chaos going on sometimes, and
They're rolling in the track, no motors in the bikes, no nothing.
Yeah.
Bikes are all apart, got to put them together, and it's like we say, we go to the track to race. We don't go to the track to work, and races are won and lost at the shop.
Yeah. If I go out there and I fail to perform, I really feel bad for the guys on the team because they're the ones that are putting it on the line. They're leaving their families. They're at the shop endless hours when we ask them to be. And if there's some reason we don't turn on a win light because it's a rider's fault, that's when it comes home to hit me that, hey, I just let my team down. But we come back to the trailer and they fight through it and they say, hey, we'll move on to the next one. We'll get them.
I mean, we even told Angel that when she came aboard, that was the number one thing was
we're not going to sit here, yell at you, and beat you up, because like Terry's probably only ever called me twice after like a loss, and not to yell at me, to ask me, hey, what are you thinking? But it's like you go through these funks as drivers or racers or whatever it may be, and you got to battle out of that, and that's the key. And that's what I told Angel is there's no extra pressure. You're not trying to prove anything to us. You're here because we know you can do it. If you make a mistake, you make a mistake. Just learn off your mistake. As long as you don't make that same mistake twice or 3 times, we're all good. And I think that's the key to really the fine balance of being a racer to a championship caliber racer.
The whole time we're sitting at a table, they're constantly looking at the door, looking up, see who's walking in, who's looking at us. I'm like, this is so weird. I don't know if they're planning to kill me.
We were just looking a sticker with the bill. We were like, we could tell if somebody's coming and go like this and get the bill and leave.
I didn't know why they wanted me there. And then we started talking about the possibility of putting a third bike and would I be interested in riding on a team? Yes. That's how fast I answered it. We're thinking about putting a third bike. Would you be? Yes. And they said, well, don't you want to hear what's going on before you say yes? I'm like, nope. Yes.
No, you had me at breakfast.
Yeah.
Boys, it was a pleasure. Had a good time.
Thank you very much, and you have a good time at the Chili Bowl. We'll see you there, my friend. Keep the good stories coming. Yeah, you'll be there. I'm certain of it. I'll read about it somewhere. Okay, you're not going to be able to see us, Ron, so you just stay there until we tell you we're done.
Okay. Like 4 o'clock, I'm going, wow, what's going on here? Keep it up. It's a great show.
Thanks for watching this episode of The Skinny. Be sure to check out all the latest sun and optical eyewear at fatheads.com. Special thanks to our sponsorship partners at Elliott's Custom Trailers and Carts. This has been a production of Fathead Studios. Please remember to subscribe.